I am Daddy Warpig, and this is Daddy Warpig's Kick-Ass Geekcast. I am back! All right, Daddy Warpig's Kick-Ass Geekcast coming to you straight from the House of Geekery, daddywarpig.wordpress.com, daddywarpig.wordpress.com. Catch us on the web, a great geekery post every single day. You can follow us on Twitter at daddy_warpig, at daddy_warpig. Tonight, as always, every night we had big news all across the internet, all across Twitter, where I read and post frequently. And we want to talk about all of the things that have been happening today. But first, I need to apologize to you, my audience. Last night's show, for reasons unknown, although I hope we have since fixed the problem, had heavily garbled sound. Those of you who listened to the show, I am impressed and amazed, because when I tried to listen to the show after it was over, I couldn't get through it. It was painful, and I'll be honest, it was embarrassing. So I want to apologize to you and say we have done everything we can to get that issue taken care of. And unless something horrible is happening, tonight's show should be much better. The bad thing about doing an internet radio show is that you are dependent on your internet connection. And let me give you the bad news. My internet connection is at its best between 50 and 100 milliseconds of lag, and frequently bumps up over 1,000 milliseconds of lag. That's right, 1,000 milliseconds. I get to enjoy the beauty of 1 full second of lag. When that causes problems, it can cause some sound distortion. I can't do anything about it until I suddenly become a multi-billionaire and move to some place with much better internet. Just do the best job I can. Fortunately for you, I, your host, am such a vibrant, exciting personality with such intelligence and insight that it makes hearing the occasional glitches worth it. Last night being the notable exception. Some other news that I read just before I went on the air. King of Paul. Those of you who already know, he got doxed and sent a letter with a knife in the mail and some kind of note. This is, one notes, far more concrete evidence of ill intent or a threat to life than the death threats that others have involved on one side or another of this consumer revolt have experienced. So I want to say once again, because last night's sound was garbled, you may not have understood me. Those of you who engage in harassment, who engage in death threats, who engage in abuse. You may not have understood me, so I want to repeat it to make sure it is completely clear. Harassment, death threats, and abuse are wrong, no matter who they're coming from, no matter who they're going to. It's not okay just because you target someone who is championing ethics in journalism. Someone who posts in the Gamergate hashtag, death threats are not okay just because you personally hate them. Now, I am unsure as to when people missed that concept, but if you have gotten to this point in your life without learning that death threats are wrong, please slap yourself in the face, then do it again, then repeat after me. Are you ready? Death threats are wrong. I will no longer threaten death to people. So help me God. All right? Don't do it. Moving on. Documenting yet more stupidity, the president, Ernest W.A. Adams, or founder of the IGDA, the Independent Developer, oh dear, I lost it. I'm sorry, the IGDA. Wow, I'm lost in my tabs all of a sudden. It's like the end of 2010 in here. Holy garbage. Sorry about that, folks. Anyways, Ernest W. Adams, game design consultant, writer, and part-time professor, founder of the IDGA, wrote this on Twitter earlier tonight and a bunch of other things. If you're an indie developer and you are supporting hashtag Gamergate, what you say, your future business is at stake. We appreciate Ernest W. Adams' thoughtful advice to game developers. We appreciate him telling us that the internet is forever. And the reason why we appreciate him telling us that the internet is forever is that because once our consumer revolt has run its course and we have decimated the ranks of the corrupt, we will know, and decent and honest people will remember, that we did what we did for the right reasons, that we did what we did in the right way, and that we acted with honor and decency. And it will be on Twitter for anyone to research, for anyone to read, and for anyone to see. That's why I appreciate his reminder that the internet is forever, because the good things that we are doing will that way be remembered. By the way, I want to give a tip of the hat to KO Guy 2006 for sending that tweet that brought it to my attention. Moving on. Let's talk about Gawker. Gawker. And again, if you were listening to the show a couple of days ago, you heard me eviscerate the whiny, impotent, rage-filled rant of one of the primary figures at Gawker. But wait, there's more. Now, Gawker has a problem with Gamergate because Gawker is the president, or is the owner of Kotaku. And Kotaku has one of the most prominent records of corruption in gaming journalism. Now, when you look at Kotaku and Gawker, it may occur to you to wonder, what is it that this organization does? There's a bunch of different sites all under the same banner. And these sites all feed their revenue into Gawker Media, which then takes that revenue to an offshore tax haven. It may occur to you to wonder if that is precisely moral. It may be legal. I'm not a tax attorney. I can't tell you. But is it moral? Certainly, the kind of people who have established and run Gawker in public scream with rage at the notion of companies going to Ireland or other places legally stowing money they've made overseas. So at the very least, it seems a bit hypocritical. What else is hypocritical is that they're crying and whining and screaming because the efforts of this consumer revolt currently occupying the Gamergate hashtag in contacting advertisers has caused many of them to flee Gawker entirely. And they're screaming because that's evil, because that's censoring them. Well, this came across my feed earlier today where Gawker was organizing a boycott of advertisers, and this is back, according to the dates, in 2009. So they may have forgotten. It was a little over 5 years ago. It may have slipped their minds, but they were organizing a boycott of the Glenn Beck show. Now, however you feel about Glenn Beck personally, that's not the point. The point is they were deliberately contacting advertisers of Glenn Beck and getting them to drop it. They triumph, at least 3 in the image I've got, and it's 2 different writers championing this boycott. So the very thing that Gawker says is bad and evil and wrong and immoral and destructive of the First Amendment, and you vile people are ruining a business. Today, they were championing back in 2009. That is my personal definition, or matches my personal definition of hypocrisy, saying one thing and doing another. Gawker is not on solid ground. One of their editors is named Sam Biddle, is the editor of Valleywag, posted several days ago some unfortunate tweets where he endorsed bullying of geeks, nerds in general, and specifically, at least implied, anyone involved in Gamergate. And having done so, people in this consumer revolt used that as an example of the kind of irresponsible actions at Gawker And Adobe, as a chief example, withdrew advertising from Gawker precisely because of that reason, saying so on their official Twitter account. Now, we have word today, a story today announced in Business Insider, or at the very least, that's the one that I was notified of. This very same Sam Biddle is leaving Valleywag and transitioning to another role at Gawker Media. He's going to be the senior writer. Now, he's going to spend all of November on sabbatical. So starting a week from now, he's going on sabbatical. When he returns in December, he'll be named senior writer at Gawker, focusing on subjects. And this is the interesting bit. People are saying, oh, he got slapped down. Oh, he got demoted. And they were saying, oh, yeah, because the story claims this had been decided a month ago and has nothing to do with Gamergate. And people were saying, oh, no, that's not true. That can't possibly be true. We don't believe that. I want to put that issue aside. I have no idea if this was prompted by Gamergate. I have no idea if this decision was made in the past 3 or 4 days, because it's irrelevant. What's important is not when the decision was made, but when they chose to publicize it. And they chose to publicize it today. Why did they choose to publicize it today? Well, I believe it is the beginning of a public relations pushback. By moving Sam Biddle out of an editor job into a writer job, they can say that they have punished him, that his comments were importunate, and that, therefore, he is no longer a problem. Bullying is no longer an issue, and so that advertisers can now ignore everything that Gamergate is doing, because Sam Biddle is no longer a factor. This allows them to move him out of the way for advertisers, to make the excuse to advertisers so they can continue receiving revenue, while at the same time denying Gamergate a victory. That's the ploy here. And even if it happens behind the scenes, I expect there will be a pushback against the bullying claims. But that's not all. I'm going to come back to that in a second. He has been moved to senior writer at Gawker. Now listen to this sentence very, very closely. Focusing on subjects related to the internet, including cybersecurity, cryptography, activism, and politics. Internet, cybersecurity, internet, cryptography, and wait, internet, activism, and internet politics. Sam Biddle, notorious, bitter, angry, anti-consumer revolt, Sam Biddle is now senior writer in charge of writing about internet activism. Tell me who that reminds you of. Internet activism. What could possibly spring to mind at this point related to internet activism? My suggestion is that Sam Biddle has been moved into a perfect position to more effectively, more efficiently, more viciously slander Gamergate. He has now the perfect platform on which to do it, and at the same time, they're going to begin using his move to a new position where he can do this as evidence that there's no longer a problem with bullying to try and blunt our accusations, our proof, our objections. You may be thinking that's a bad thing, and it kind of is. But that brings us to the next subject I wanted to talk about today, which is how sleazy and scummy and vile and wretched Gawker is. Just today, reading the Thieves, people gave examples of Gawker posting and profiting from celebrity nude photos, stolen celebrity nude photos and videos. Olivia Munn, Heather Morris, Hulk Hogan, Christina Hendricks. Now, as I said the other day, Gawker is not something I read and was not something I was intimately familiar with, so there may actually be more. I'm not saying there is, but there may be more. Those are the 4 I verified today. And you're wondering why I'm mentioning that, besides the fact that it paints Gawker in a bad light. The reason why I mention that is over in the... It's because Gawker's advertisers, including, for example, Pringles and Kellogg's, have a family-friendly policy. Kellogg's said in a letter posted today that they do not advertise with entities that derive income from violence or sex. Now think about that. Kellogg's is an advertiser at Gawker. Gawker posts stolen nude photos of celebrities and gets money from it. Kellogg says, we don't advertise with anybody who derives income from violence or sex. I believe, at least it did to me, that assemblage of facts suggested a course of action. A course of action which not only is it based entirely on truth, it is based on something that is well documented, the presence of these nudes, which at least in the case of Hulk Hogan's sex tape, led to an ongoing lawsuit which has been reported on dozens of times. Well documented, persistent across several years, and Gawker is absolutely defiant and unrepentant. So we take this perfectly accurate, well-documented information and we give it to advertisers who consider themselves or their brands to be family friendly. And if they have an absolute policy of not advertising on websites that make money off of this, then they will leave Gawker. What I'm suggesting is not a abandonment of the emails talking about bullying. I am suggesting we add to that information for family-friendly corporations about stolen celebrity nudes and Gawker's obstinate refusal to remove them from the site because it makes them money. It's simple, it's clear, it's the truth. All we're doing is taking the truth to people who would want to know anyway. Because again, these companies do not buy ads directly from Gawker. They buy ads from a third-party organization who sells ads to several different websites. So they don't necessarily know that their ads are going on Gawker, and if they knew, they would pull them off. Now, I need to get in contact with the people running Operation Disrespectful Nod, because I think this is critical information that if the bullying charges are in point of fact blunted, as I suggested was happening earlier in the show, if those bullying charges are in point of fact blunted, if they manage to make the PR flip that moving him out of his editor position means this isn't a problem, then we have something that can be as effective or more. We can't just sit back and hope that the same tactics will continue to succeed when there is another course available to it, which is to add something new and effective to the same tactics. Now, this is what concerns me deeply about what I saw. The person who had posted this information was refusing to send it to advertisers. They wouldn't do it. They wouldn't give this information to advertisers because, in their words, it was not sex positive. We couldn't give this information to advertisers. It would be shameful and wrong to give this information to advertisers because it isn't sex positive. Okay. Let me say this. If you are an advocate for sex positive attitudes and you support the ability of adults to choose to view pornographic material, why would you also include in that people who had personal, intimate sexual pictures and movies stolen and sold to a third party? In my mind, if you have a sex-positive attitude and you endorse the existence of, for example, Playboy or whatever, there is a big difference between someone who chooses to pose for Playboy or Playgirl or whatever and is paid for that and makes that choice of their own volition. That's one thing. Versus someone who has photos that are intended to remain private and who has those photos stolen and thrown across the internet. Wait, there's something. It's triggering a memory in the back of my mind. stealing private information and posting it across the internet, pictures of someone naked, maybe pictures of their house, maybe, oh yeah, that's doxing, right? Just another form of it. So what you're saying is your excuse of being sex positive means you're going to excuse Gawker profiting from doxing celebrities. That's your position. That's what you're saying. I respectfully disagree. Respectfully. I think that they profit off of stolen celebrity nudes, and that even if you're sex positive, that's wrong. I think that we should, as a matter of course, inform advertisers who consider themselves family friendly that that's what Gawker does. And I think this is, in addition to Operation Disrespectful Nod and the bullying objections that we have already sent out, and it will help us blunt the upcoming PR maneuver. My name is Daddy Warpig. This is Daddy Warpig's Kick-Ass Geek Cast. Every weeknight, 7 to 7:30 p.m. Catch us on the web at the House of Geekery, daddywarpig.wordpress.com, daddywarpig.wordpress.com. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Retweet to your friends if you think this is something they would like to listen to. And also follow us on Twitter at daddy_warpig, at daddy_warpig. Thank you for tuning in. I, your host, Daddy Warpig, am signing off. I will be back.